good morning. Welcome to Beside the Tracks. This is the fourth chapter of the book of Jonah. In the first chapters, you remember that God prepared a prophet. He prepared a wind. He prepared some sailors. He prepared a rescue plan. It was his plan and not theirs, if you'll recall. And then he prepared some hearts and a fish. In chapter 2, he prepared a prophet for obedience, and then he prepared a stomachache, if you recall. That fish zoomed him out. And then God prepared a prophet again, and then you'll notice God prepared a city. Today we start again in chapter 4. Of all the things that God prepared, he is preparing a prophet again. Jonah, however, prepares to sulk. Sulk. Of all the things God prepared in this book, everyone did as they were asked except one. The man of God, the prophet of God. But it displeased Jonah exceedingly, and he was very angry. It means that God spared the wicked city and had them turn to him. He didn't have a heart that was like God's heart. Speaking of Jonah, he wanted justice but not mercy. Now, Micah, the next little book, the little prophet said in 6:8 of his book, he showed you, oh man, what is good and what God requires of you, to do justice and love mercy and walk humbly with your God. Again, he prayed, poor rascal, and said to the Lord, I pray you, O Lord, was this not my saying when I was yet in my country? So I fled to Tarshish, because I knew that you are a gracious God and merciful, slow to anger and of great kindness, and repentest thee of evil. Therefore, Lord, take thee my life from me. It is better for me to die than to live. Well, he was honest about his hard, evil heart. Here he tries to justify his lack of compassion. He's totally self-oriented. His nation's best interests, in his mind, were predominant over the father heart of God. I guess the best way to destroy an enemy, if you think about it, is to make him a friend. Seems strange that a preacher would be angry that his listeners repented of their sins, but that's exactly Jonah's reaction to the Ninevites' repentance. Jonah 4:2 tells us why. Lord, is this not what I said when I was in my country? This is why I boogied off to Spain. I knew that you're a gracious God and merciful. Jonah knew that from the start God was gracious and merciful. He realized if the people of Nineveh repented, God would likely spare them. And he was angry at the repentance because he'd rather see them destroyed. It seems strange that he would be angry at their repentance. Are you angry at people enough? How about those people who come across our borders? Maybe they're a mission field. Maybe they're a mission field. Jonah was angry, and so he wanted to see them destroyed instead of saved. So he sulks. So God prepares a question. Then God said, doest thou well to be angry? It's an important little verse here, important thing to have compassion for the lost. Compassion is defined as a deep awareness of the suffering of another, coupled with the wish to relieve it. Billy Graham has said the evangelistic harvest is always urgent. The destiny of man and nations is always being decided. Every generation is strategic. We are not responsible for the past generation. We cannot bear full responsibility for the next one. But we do have our generation. God will hold us responsible for how we fulfill our responsibilities to this age and take advantage of our opportunities. We are all called to bring the gospel to our culture today. There are no exceptions. Many of us, if we're honest, would admit that we're not doing that very well. I have to admit that quite often. I sometimes have a hard heart when it comes to sharing my faith. Maybe a little fear, too. That means I'm under a withering vine as well. I need to remember my disobedient pre-Christ state and hear God say, dost thou well to be angry? Well, after that, God prepared a vine. So Jonah went out of the city, sat on the east side of the city, made him a booth and sat in the shadow that he might see what would become of the city. He's still open. And God prepared a gourd vine and made it to come up over Jonah that it might be a shadow over his head to deliver him from the grief. So he was exceedingly glad of the gourd. In biblical literature, the vine has got a symbol quite often used to represent Israel, God's people, and their relationship with him. And the picture here is of a vine is all right through the Old and New Testaments. It illustrates themes of growth and fruitfulness and divine care. And the Old Testament frequently used to symbolize Israel's spiritual condition. The Song of the Vineyard in Isaiah 5:1-7 portrays Israel as a vineyard planted and tended by God. It says then he gets upset because it's producing wild grapes. And Jeremiah, God laments, I had planted you as a choice vine from the very best seed. How could you turn yourself into a wild vine? In the New Testament, of course, Jesus uses the vine metaphor to describe his relationship with his followers. In John 15, 1 through 5, he said, I'm the vine. My Father's the husband, the keeper of the vine, the husbandman. Remain in me and I'll remain in you. And he said, you can't bear fruit without me and you need me. In response to Jonah's discomfort and displeasure, God appoints this plant, often referred to as a vine or a gourd, to grow over Jonah's shelter. By the way, this vine, if you look at about your garden at a zucchini or gourd vine, it had big leaves, and it was some kind of shelter that he built, and the vine came up over it. So it would offer him a good deal of shade. So God appointed a vine or a gourd, and it grew up to provide shade over Jonah's head and to ease his discomfort. And Jonah was pretty pleased. But then God prepared a worm. God prepared a worm when the morning rose next day, and it smote the gourd that it withered. And it came to pass, when the sun did arise, that God prepared a vehement east wind, and the sun beat upon the head of Jonah. He fainted and wished to himself to die, and said, it's better for me to die than to live. And Jonah was asked an important question. Do you well to be angry for the gourd? He said, I do well to be angry, even unto death. So God appointed a worm to attack the plant. It caused it to dry up. And the next day he sent this scorching east wind. He prepared a lot of things here, didn't he? And left Jonah all bummed out. And Jonah expresses his anger, and he wishes for death. God is now questioning, you're concerned for the plant? Come on. So God prepares a lesson here in verse 10 and 11. Then the Lord said, you have pity on the gourd, for that which you did not labor, nor did you make it grow. It came up in a night, and it perished in a night. And should not I spare Nineveh, that great city, wherein are more than 6,000 people that cannot discern between the right and the left hand, and also many cattle? 4 through 10, God said, you spared the vine? There's 12,000 people here that can't tell the right hand from the left, and so many animals. And what? I think the narrative really serves as a profound lesson of God's compassion and mercy, contrasting Jonah's concern for his own comfort with God's concern for the people that need to know God, the people of Nineveh in this case. The vine and Jonah's shelter illustrates the transient nature of our earthly comforts and the enduring nature of God's love and mercy toward all of his creation. We are called to tell the good news to those we meet along the way. Maybe just a little bit of compassion to the stranger will not only change their day, but perhaps their eternity as well. I recall it. I was driving up on my motorcycle a number of years ago down by the one stop in town near us, and there was a white van over there, and the guys were filling up with gas, and kind of looked over at me, and I'm wearing my leather, and I had a beard then. I had hair and a beard, and I guess I looked like a gnarly biker, I don't know. And they were looking at me, and I hauled it across. Hey, buenos tardes. They all looked up and smiled, and I said, that's all I know. And they laughed, and for a minute, everything was okay. 1 second of compassion. How's your heart? How's your heart? Are you fearful of sharing the gospel? I am sometimes. Just ask God to give you the right heart to realize the eternal state of those with whom we live. You ponder that, Pastor Steve.